Oh, Real Madrid 4, Levante 1. As you can see, I'm still in Santiago in Chile here. The lighting's not very good, so I think I'm going to switch this around a little bit. Ah, this is better. Now you can see the ugly mug in front of you. Yes, judging by the first 10 minutes of this game, you would not think the scoreline would turn out to be 4-1. We gave up a lot of chances. Alonso played quite an interesting formation, a formation and a selection of players we haven't really played so far this season. So we'll get into this, but I thought there were some fantastic performances tonight from certain players. So, yeah, let's get into the 4-1 victory. So if we get into the starting lineup then, and one great thing about Xabi Alonso, something that's quite different to how Carlo Ancelotti operated, is that you never quite know what his starting lineup's going to be. He likes to change formations, he likes to change the players, and I think he went into this game wanting to rotate both Militao and Carvajal because they're both coming back from long-term injuries and they've played a lot recently. So with Trent Alexander-Arnold injured, there was a question mark who was going to play at right back, and he decided to go with a three at the back, with Huijsen being flanked by Carreras and Asensio. We haven't seen that so far. That's the first time they played together. I think the first 10, 20 minutes really showed that because there was a lot of space in the middle of the park. Levante were able to create a lot of chances. I want to say, though, so far on Alvaro Carreras, I think he's been perhaps the signing of the summer so far. He's been incredible. I'm trying to look back and compare him to the other left backs that we've had since I started supporting Real Madrid. And the first left back that I ever saw that I actually went to see play at the Bernabeu in 2005 was, of course, Roberto Carlos. And then after Carlos retired, we had a few years of kind of uncertainty. We had Gabriel Heinze, I remember. We had an academy player called Miguel Torres. It wasn't until Marcelo really emerged that we had the probably the second greatest left back in the club's history. And then over the last 5 or 6 years, since Marcelo declined, we've kind of struggled with a left back. You know, Mendy was great for a couple of seasons, but he offensively, he's just not the answer. And Alvaro Carreras, he might be, I'm probably exaggerating a little bit, but I think he could be the third greatest left back that I've seen, you know, behind Marcelo and Carlos. It's amazing how comfortable he looks at 22 years old. I did not expect this level of performance from him. And a great example of that is on the fourth goal. If you look at Alvaro Carreras, he gets the ball under pressure in his own half, and both Mendy and Fran Garcia would have just played that back. Would have just played that back to Courtois, played it safe. But he did a little shimmy, a little body movement. He beat the press. He played the ball forward to Guler, I believe it was, and Guler then played the ball through to Mbappe for the fourth goal. Great play from Alvaro Carreras. I think he looks already to be our number one left back, and we're only 7 games into the season. He's at a much better level than both Mendy and Fran Garcia is. So yeah, I just wanted to start off with praise for Alvaro Carreras because I haven't talked about him much so far on this channel. Yeah, and as for the rest of the starting lineup, we got some more surprises. Fran Garcia started, Dani Ceballos started. Both of those guys haven't played much so far this season. Franco maintained his spot on the right wing. I suppose that's not really surprising, but I wonder what Rodrigo and Brahim are thinking when this 18-year-old kid has come in and played so much at the start of the season. But each game he plays, he seems to be getting better and better, and he scored a great goal today. We started off, though, the first 15 minutes or so, looking pretty uncomfortable. Levante had the first 2 chances of the game, I believe. We struggled to keep the ball. Probably it was because we haven't really played this formation of 3 at the back very often, and the players were getting used to the system. But as soon as we got that first goal, which was a brilliant goal from Vinicius, that was an unbelievable finish. Something reminded me a bit of the old Benzema, where he could just score from, barely putting any effort into the shot, and fantastic placement from Vinny. And after that first goal, we seemed to relax. And then I thought the rest of that first half, we could have scored 3 goals. We were fantastic. And one thing I like about Xabi Alonso, which is different to Carlo Ancelotti, is under Carlo Ancelotti, we were really a second half team. It took us quite a while to get going. Whereas under Xabi Alonso, we start quick, we start fast. And I thought Mbappe pressed very well today. I thought Vinny worked pretty well. Again, I know it was against Levante, so I'm not getting carried away. I am looking forward to the Atletico derby because it will be the first real challenge of the season to see where we're at. But so far, 7 wins in a row. You can't argue with that. I've just seen a stat here come up on my phone, and just to continue the Alvaro Carreras hype train, he apparently won possession 16 times tonight, which is the most of any Real Madrid defender since Sergio Ramos in 2019. I mean, what a stat that is. When was the last time, by the way, that our defence looked so Spanish? You know, you throw in Danny Ceballos in there as well. It was a very Spanish-looking team. One development under the new Xabi Alonso regime that I'm really enjoying is the connection between Guler and Mbappe. It reminds me a little bit of the Ronaldo Ozil days. Every time Guler's on the ball, Mbappe's gone. He knows Guler's going to find him. And sometimes he's a little bit selfish, Mbappe. You know, on the penalty that he got today, he could have passed it or crossed it earlier. But I have no problem with that. I think he could be the most informed, lethal striker in the world at the moment. Every time he's through on goal, I feel like he's going to score. He could easily be getting 40, 50 goals this season. And if that means sometimes he's a little bit selfish, I have no problem with that. Just how Ronaldo was back in the day. Now, as for the formation, like all formations, they have their positives and negatives. And the great thing with this formation is I like the fact that Vinicius had a lot more freedom. With Fran Garcia playing on that left wing, it allowed Vinicius to drift in, to go to the right as he scored his great goal, to play more centrally. When we play a 4-3-3, he's kind of stuck a little bit more on the left wing. And I think we'll get more goals out of Vinicius when he's allowed that freedom. You know, his best goal scoring season when he was playing off of Benzema, you know, when he was allowed that kind of freedom. So that's a positive of this formation. However, I want to see it a lot more before I feel comfortable to say, right, this formation we can play against the top level teams. Because as I said, you know, the beginning of the game was very open. And the negatives of this formation is that we were quite exposed in the midfield at times. So yeah, now it could have been the selection of players. Maybe if we have Tchouaméni starting or Bellingham in there, maybe we'll look a bit more physical. But at times there was a bit of a disconnect between the attack and the defence. So, but yeah, I need to see it more for sure. So anyway, then going back to the goal scorers, then obviously we talked about Vinicius getting the first goal, beautiful finish. Franco also scored his first goal for the club with his weak foot. Brilliant goal from Franco. He's just growing and growing every game. If he can add a little bit, or I mean, he's 18, so you know I'm not criticising, but if he can get a little bit better with decision making, what a player! I mean, he at 18 he looks a lot more advanced than Vinicius did at 18, for example. So I mean, the you know the world is this kid's oyster, as they say. The second half though started off with Levante scoring. Asensio switched off a little bit. You know, I thought he had a good game, Asensio, considering. He hasn't played much this season, but he's still got those little brain fart moments in where he just doesn't seem concentrated. But great reaction from Real Madrid, almost immediately winning a penalty. I thought the penalty was a bit soft. I've seen it again, and I think he did touch him, but he was looking for that, I think, Mbappe. So I had some sympathy for Levante on the penalty. But then straight away after that, Mbappe scoring a beautiful goal. And yeah, the game was pretty much over at that point. We got to see Bellingham make his first appearance of the season. Camavinga's back. We've pretty much got a full team now. We need to get Rudiger back and obviously Mendy. But you know, at this point, I'm not really relying on Mendy. But even Alaba's playing at the moment, so we finally got a full team. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting test of Ancelotti's management because now he has got a full team almost at his disposal. He's got some decisions to make. Is Bellingham going to be starting against Atletico? Guler really deserves to keep his spot after that performance, but you know we've got a lot of midfielders and a lot of competition, so it'll be very interesting to see what happens. I expect a lot of rotation. It's something he's done so far, so I don't see why that's going to stop. But Camavinga's back now. I suspect Tchouaméni will keep his starting spot because he's been one of the best performances this season against Atletico. But yeah, I'm very curious to see how what formation he's going to choose and what players he's going to pick. Although Atletico have started poor this season, they've been, as I talked about, a really difficult opponent over the last few seasons for Real Madrid. You know, they were very close to knocking us out in the Champions League if it wasn't for that dodgy. Was it Julian Alvarez, I believe, where he double touched that foul? I mean, I felt that should have been retaken as far as I'm concerned. And I think the rules have now changed for that. But either way, we got pretty lucky, let's say, to beat Atletico in that game. So they've had our number in recent seasons. So I still expect them to raise their game. It's away from home. It's going to be the first real test of Ancelotti. But yeah, I'm excited. 7 wins on the bounce so far. So yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. I'll wrap it up there then. Great performance from Real Madrid today. Alvaro Carreras looks fantastic. Vinicius was great. Mbappe, Franco, Valverde, Guler. Great performance from Real Madrid. And yeah, I shall see you on the weekend then. Hala Madrid.